Welcome back to Lost in Roshar, the ultimate journey through the Stormlight Archive. I'm Christian Kremling.
And I'm Jimmy Stormblessed. Today, we are diving into chapter 73, 74, 75, and the epilogue for the Way of Kings, a.k.a. we're completing this bad boy today. This is a reread podcast, so if you haven't read the Stormlight Archive, you should definitely tune in after you have. And for everyone else, welcome back. Christian, I was off last episode, and we had Jake fill in, and people always love when Jake stops in. How'd it go? Was it good?
It went really well. We get into Cosmere mechanics and annoying discussions about gemstones and rocks, and it's nice to go deep like that sometimes, but it's also nice to just like talk about random stuff as well. So it's good to have you back, mate. How was the week off?
We talk about really intense and smart things, and then we welcome me back as the bro of the Stormlight Archive fandom. I mean, you know what? You got to play to your strengths, and that's my strength, is being a bro. So I'm cool with it. I'm glad that there's different variants between different chemistry between the two co-hosts who comes on. I think that's actually a good thing. Gives a little variety to the episodes and stuff, and we always appreciate Jake filling in. So Jake, if you're listening, thanks for having my back. I was out in Denver, Colorado for some work, and it wasn't very fun, and I hate doing it, but I have to.
Great.
So here we are.
Well, it dispels the myth of Jake saying you just took it off to watch UFC. So UFC 300 was fantastic, and I did watch it. I very much enjoyed it. So that was it. That was some good stuff. There was a fight that ended in a very anime way, where the dudes, after 5 rounds, the guy who was winning the fight just pointed to the center of the octagon, was like, let's just throw for the fences the last 10 seconds. And they start throwing, and he sleeps this guy. And he was a massive underdog. Oh,
Top 5, top 3 combat sports moment of all time.
Whoa.
Insane. I was screaming. I was standing up and screaming. And I'm pretty subdued. Like I'm not a sports fan that gets like really animated. But this was one of the best things I'd ever seen, and it felt like it was straight out of a fantasy book or an anime. I mean, it really did.
I gotta check that out.
You don't even have to have the context. Like I could explain to you why it's also just insane that he won, but like just watching the energy in the building, it's crazy. Like even the referee was screaming. It was great. It was fantastic. Great fight. So I did watch UFC 300, but I'm happy to be back, and I definitely would rather be doing Lost in Roshar than going on business trips ever, because I'm tired of flying. But we're back, so we're going to focus on the positives, I think.
Yeah, man, I can't believe we're finishing this bad boy. It's been a journey. Some might have said we would never finish this. Some might say it would have taken till December.
Yeah, we did get a comment where someone's like, at this pace, we're not going to finish. And I was like, we could literally do half a chapter a month and still get it done by December. Like,
give us some credit.
Yeah, I mean, like, criticize all you want, but like, let's be realistic about these things. Come on now. We got through it, and we did it within a year, which is really cool. But we've never been focused on speed, and we never will be. One, because things happen, but two, we got a long time before this series ever gets finished, and especially between books 5 and 6. So it's all about the journey, not the destination, as Sanderson would say. So we have finished this book. Our next episode, I guess we could talk about what's going to happen next episode before we dive into these chapters. Next episode is going to be a recap, just going over the experience of reading The Way of Kings like this, because the way that we have done it is very counter to how people usually read a Sanderson book, or any fantasy book for that matter. Taking it, 2-3 chapters at a time and talking about it at length is something that definitely changes the perspective and the lens of which you see a book. So we're gonna talk all about that. We're also gonna have some accolades and awards, right, Christian?
Yeah, I'm going. I wanted to acknowledge this big moment a bit more, so I'm going to make a survey, which I shall have linked somewhere, wherever you're listening, and I think I'll make it about 10 questions, and we want to hear from you guys. What did you think about The Way of Kings? I haven't made the questions yet, so it's kind of hard to say, but best characters, best moments, most sus Kremling, perhaps.
Yes.
And we will go through those accolades and awards, and they'll be the official Lost in Roshar Way of Kings awards. And I want to give awards to each of these Stormlight books. I think it'll be a fun little thing to do at the end of each
book to celebrate the milestone and hear from you guys as well, who have made this such an enjoyable experience. So yeah, that's the plan.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe we'll even tier rank the POVs for the book. I think that could be a little bit of a fun thing to do. So yeah, I think that's going to be a really good time, and we hope that you'll participate in the survey that you'll see down in the description, whether on YouTube, it's in the pinned comment, or in Spotify, wherever you are. It should be in the podcast, the episode description. And it'll be a Google form that you can fill out, and we'd really appreciate it. And you'll make the episode. Your answers will be heard. So
yeah. Oh, it's exciting, man. I feel like I've got a new rejuvenated excitement for the Stormlight Archive. Some weeks, we're just with Adolin looking for a strap. And I'm like, you know what? Is this my favorite series? But then you read chapters like today where it's like, I have returned, I am Talon, and all this stuff's happening. I'm like, oh yeah, okay. All right.
Yeah, the ending of this book really shows why it's epic fantasy, right? It is epic, and just so many cool things to look forward to, and that's why it gets stuck on the same shelf as Wheel of Time or A Song of Ice and Fire or Lord of the Rings, is because it does have these grand epic mysteries that we're still trying to figure out in a very unique world with unique characters, and that's why I've always felt pretty confident, saying that Stormlight Archive will be in that conversation. It'll be on that tier with those other big main series that will be pretty much timeless, I think. So these chapters are a good reminder of that. But I'm also just excited to get into Words of Radiance, because Words of Radiance and Oathbringer, like, that's the stretch I'm looking forward to the most. So that basically means that the next almost 2 years probably is going to be outstanding. And that's very exciting stuff. Next 3 episodes after the next one. So next episode, we're doing the recap. And then we're going to have 3 episodes dedicated to Warbreaker. And we're going to do about 20 chapters an episode and kind of talk about that. We'll be taking span reads. So if you have Warbreaker span reads, that would be fantastic for y'all to send in at lostandroshar@gmail.com. Those could make the Warbreaker episodes even better. So if you have theories tying Stormlight and this together, please send them in. We would love to hear that. Or if it's just Warbreaker in general, you just want to say some stuff about Warbreaker, we'd love to have your opinions on it. So exciting stuff. We're turning a page in the podcast.
Yes.
So pretty cool.
And background update, the backgrounds for Words of Radiance are looking sick. I've seen a few sketches so far, a few sort of mock-ups that are now adding detail and animated. I'll tell you the characters that you may be seeing. You may be seeing Adolin. You may be seeing Seth and Eshonai. These look so good. So I'm keen to show those off on YouTube whenever they're ready. They'll be ready by Words of Radiance by the time we jump into that.
Yeah, so that's definitely something to also get excited about. We're trying to make each book a unique experience from the art perspective, and going out and getting legitimately exclusive art that is only licensed to us from a really talented artist, and their name is
Connor Chamberlain.
From
New Zealand, just across the gap from me.
Super talented.
Yeah, man. It's going to be so cool, because by the time we're getting 3 new pieces per book, like by the time we're at Rhythm of War, our podcast will be a very colorful, epic looking experience. It's fun to like invest in this, because you're seeing it all pay off. When we first started, it was a bit ratchet. It was like pretty low budget affair.
We put all this money in it and we still don't make a dime.
yeah. We should probably start
We're dumb. We're very dumb. Yeah, we're very dumb.
Yeah.
But speaking of someone who does make a ton of money, do we have any Sanderson updates today? Or?
Well, last week it was that he met Victor Wembanyama. Did you see the picture of him?
Yeah, it's comical.
Oh my God, Sanderson the Hobbit. It was just great. And then like I joked with Jake that my dad every week is like, contact Wemby, get him on. And then the top comment is like, you should try. So
as someone who runs a podcast where I've interviewed authors and I try to get famous people to come talk to me about books with Chatting with Nuts, what people don't understand is how hard it is to get a hold of these people. And that's by design, because a lot of people want their time. So, if we would have a better chance if somebody said, hey, Wemby, check out this podcast, and then if he liked the podcast, we'd have a much better time. Over at Bend the Knee, we had a Houston Texans cheerleader who was a huge fan. And we were able to talk to her, and it was really cool. So the best thing we could do is to get Wemby to listen to Lost in Roshar. That's the best thing we could do.
Maybe that should be like an optional question at the end of the survey, like who is your ultimate guest?
Oh, that.
Go annoy them.
Yeah, we're always down to have a guest episode. That'd be fun.
Yeah, I had grand ideas for guests, and I have reached out a few times, but nothing really panned out. So it's just me, Jake, and Jimmy. That's the deal.
The time zones also make it rather difficult.
Yeah. It's like, can you record with me at 3 a.m. your time, please, random person? So yeah, it's very hard. It's very hard being in Australia, but maybe Words of Radiance will be the guest arc of our show. We'll see. Exciting new things will be coming. But as for the update, I think Sanderson's away at the moment because all of his weekly updates have been like his staff lately. Yeah. So he's off doing something else. I've heard that
spring break with his kids, I think.
Oh, right. Well, like I've heard, I'm forgetting exactly now, but the word count of Wind and Truth is just ridiculous. It's over 500,000 words. And they're like they're like trimming the fat now. But even with the fat trimmed, I think it's going to be the fattest Stormlight book ever. Yeah. And if you're concluding an arc,
you know what?
I'm down. Dude.
Yeah, I'm down with that. I'm excited for it. You got to send it off the right way, and I know that there's going to be a ton of breadcrumbs leading into the second arc of Stormlight as well. So we're going to have plenty to dive into once that book comes out.
Yeah, I wonder which will be bigger, the Winds of Winter or Wind and Truth.
Wind and Truth. You mean physical size?
Yeah.
Definitely Wind and Truth. Yeah.
Really? Because George was saying that it's going to be bigger than Storm of Swords, which was like 1,500.
Well, I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
This is where someone inserts the joke. Well, only one of them's ever going to be published because everybody has to be super dogmatic.
Don't talk to Jimmy about Winds of Winter release. Don't do it.
You can't talk about anything without somebody saying something stupid about it. It gets exhausting. But hey, this is the Stormlight podcast. So
regardless, between basically, I'll give Way of Kings had a bit of a head start in 2010. The fact that, we've been waiting for Winds and the entire Stormlight Archive first arc will come out before Winds. The fact that I'm still that excited for Winds says so much. Like, I'm just as excited for Winds as I am for Wind and Truth, as confusing as that sentence is now because of the names. But yeah.
Liking stuff is dope.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
Like not feeling that you're in one camp or another is dope. And that happens to be where I find myself. I can enjoy many different stories of different varieties and see their strengths and know which one I want at what time, which is also very important. Unfortunately, internet culture makes people dig in their heels to their subreddits or their Twitter spheres or whatever it is. And it can get a little toxic.
It feels intense until you go outside and you're like, oh.
Yeah, touch grass is the cure for all of that. So,
yeah.
I even have people say, oh, you do A Song of Ice and Fire and Stormlight? Like, how could you ever? It's like, guys.
It's one or the other. Look, if you had those two books in front of me, I probably would pick Wind and Truth. But in that moment, I would have a crisis of faith.
I would be excited that I have two really great books to read.
There you go. But you would be off to your cabin in the woods, right?
Well, of course. Of course I would be. So I guess Sanderson's on vacation, but we're not. So we're here to wrap up chapters 73, 74, 75, and the epilogue. We do not have any death rattles at all. So there are none, right? I didn't miss them. Okay, good. I was making sure. We got a Dalinar POV. We get the Shallan chapter. And then we also... Is there a Kaladin POV in this? I can't even remember now.
It's Kaladin POV. Trust.
I don't think he's the POV. Oh no, he is. He of Trust. He is actually the POV of the first chapter. There's something about Dalinar that sticks out in this chapter, so I was thinking it was from Dalinar's POV.
For a minute, I had the same thing at the beginning. I'm like, who's okay? Yeah, it's Kaladin.
Yeah, and I have a bridge between the two, the Kaladin chapter and the Dalinar chapter. I want to make a point of, so I'm trying to figure out if I'm going to talk about it right now. Or if I'm going to talk about it when we get the chapters. Okay,
we got 4 chapters, guys. It's probably a bit messy this week.
Yeah, let's recap chapter 73 called Trust. So Kaladin POV. Kaladin waits at Dalinar's war camp staging ground as requested by Dalinar himself. As he waits, he wonders with Syl whether he can trust Dalinar. Syl seems to feel that Dalinar is indeed honorable. Kaladin feels conflicted about his actions that day. He wonders again whether he could truly protect by killing and whether the 3 lives lost from his bridge crew were worth the thousands of soldiers and lives that they saved. As the middle moon finishes rising, Dalinar joins Kaladin on the staging ground. They discuss the condition of the bridge crews and how many Kaladin thinks will stay in the army. Dalinar wants Kaladin and Bridgeford to replace his honor guard and become his bodyguards because his bodyguards have been wiped out. They end up agreeing, and then Dalinar makes Kaladin a captain. Dalinar also gives Kaladin his cloak that he wore in battle that day as a token of appreciation. Kaladin then returns to Bridgefort's barrack to find his men engaged in their nightly tradition of eating Rock's stew. They talk to him about his extraordinary abilities, and they want him to teach them how to do it too. Kaladin is unsure if it's teachable, but he agrees to try. They decide to create experiments to test his ability, and Kaladin demands an oath of silence about his abilities. He then relaxes knowing that he has finally succeeded in saving someone, and that is enough for now. This is a pretty big chapter because it touches on Kaladin having a moral crisis, which I alluded to 2 episodes ago about, like, you know, hey guys, no, we're screaming like, yeah, kill the Parshendi, but like, actually it's not as black and white as that. And it's, you could honestly say the Alethi might be the bad people here. So I like the fact that Sanderson's including this because it does a lot for the situation, especially because we're going to be hearing about how the Parshmen are the Void Bringers and all this other stuff. But from Kaladin's POV, someone who is thinking about, the morality of what he's doing and how it is seen, and someone who said he never does what a warrior should. Very interesting. You have this guy who's a talented killing machine, but just also doesn't seem to be all that interested in filling the tropes of that. So fascinating chapter for Kaladin. And also we get the hints now that there's Radiance going to be being trained, which is a link to the Dalinar chapter in 2 chapters from now, where he's talking about, you know, bringing back the Knights Radiant and a vision. So lots of moving parts and connected stuff here. The thing I want to bring up, and it's the most important one, and I will read the actual section here, is this. Nomon, the middle moon, began to rise, bright and pale blue, bathing the horizon in light. Somewhere out across the plains was the Parshendi Shardbearer that Kaladin had fought. And then he goes on to kind of talk about the Parshendi. But it is whenever Dalinar walks up, and he ends up being kind of brought with the moon. And I think that this is significant. The moon had just risen. Dalinar Kholin, it appeared, was a punctual man. So this is where he walks up as the moon's rising, right? Now, I'm going to jump ahead real quick, and I'm going to read chapter 75. If I can find it, I should have probably should have underlined it. But essentially, he is told in a vision that the sun is setting and the true desolation comes. So when a sun sets, what rises?
Oh, I see. Where
the moon.
Yeah.
The moon rises.
Huh.
And Dalinar is waiting for it in this chapter. But in the chapter we're talking about now, he comes with the moon as it rises, as the sun is setting.
Oh, God. That's
is Dalinar the true desolation?
Okay. I was like, what's he about to drop on me?
I think that we've talked about Dalinar being used as a black thorn, possibly, you know, becoming a tool of odium or something like this. And I'm still deciding what I think what's going to happen to Dalinar. We've talked about him becoming honor. We've talked about him becoming the Stormfather. We've talked about a lot of stuff on the here on the podcast. This seems significant. The moon is named capital N Nomon, and it is directly linked to the time of which Dalinar approaches. Because, like, we have tons of paragraphs, and then he makes sure to mention the fact that the moon had just risen. And because what
I've noticed is, like, at the beginning of the story, the moons get a lot of mention with their colors and stuff. I remember being quite cognizant of that, and then they've kind of been in the background. We don't really hear about what color the moon is or which moon is up. But now he's bringing it up again. So you're totally right to say that this is very intentional and significant. It makes me want to just to look out for more, like, moments where Dalinar is compared to a moon, or there's like a sun or moon metaphor with Dalinar.
Well, and also let's not forget the chapter title heading where it looks like there is like the sun's being blocked out. We've been talking about that imagery being thrown around a lot. And here's an interesting thing. Nomon is known to the Easterners as the middle moon on Roshar. It is a bright pale blue.
A colon
Dalinar wears blue. Yes. I think this is just really fascinating.
There could be also some symbolism here.
3 moons, 3 gods, cultivation.
Oh, that feels very intentional.
Odium.
Yeah. That feels very intentional.
So
I'm guessing the blue is honors, right? You would say.
I'm thinking that. I don't know. But I'm just saying that maybe this is giving it could even be foreshadowing that one of those positions of cultivation, honor, or odium is going to be given to Dalinar, possibly. But I think this is significant, is what I'm trying to say. Like, I don't know if I have the answers to it, but there is no way that Sanderson wrote this and it didn't have some meaning behind it for Kaladin seeing Dalinar coming with the moon risen.
Yeah.
Which means the sun is setting, which is also, we keep hearing sun setting, the true desolation comes.
Oh, dude. I can't. Yeah, that's 75 stuff. I'm ready. I'm ready to go for that chapter. But yeah, that's great, man. I love that. Because I remember I read that and I was like, it could be something here, but I'm just going to keep going. I kind of didn't give it enough respect. Where you stepped in and you gave him his literary credit.
I'm telling you. I'm telling you, there's something to it. There's something to it for sure.
There's a whole lot of foreshadowing in all of these chapters, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there are things that are happening in these 4 chapters that may even be tied into like book 10.
Yeah, okay. I'm with you. We got a few other little tidbits which are kind of solved mysteries now. But like Syl's aversion to the shard blade, she's just like, oh, that thing.
It's right there.
Yeah, and she's like, I don't know why I care about it. It just feels wrong to me. I hate it.
Do we remember why she's so apprehensive towards violence?
Is it just an honor thing? Maybe. That's what I kind of felt.
Could be, yeah.
But otherwise, I didn't really know. Okay. But I just felt like and honor tends to have quite tight bounds, and like the whole, like you've said and pointed out, the whole situation with the Pashendi is very precarious.
Yeah.
So it's probably that's what's triggering her. I mean, we get the scene where Dalinar gives him the colon blue. It's like a cape or whatever it is.
Yeah, kind of a cape.
And Kaladin's just like, yeah, great. That's going to be my yoga mat for the night as we have you. And I love how they're all like, please teach us. And I was like, I remember reading this for the first time being like, there's no way you can teach this. Like he's the chosen one. And then being totally proven wrong where you kind of can eventually teach this. But they're like, can you please teach us? And Kaladin's like, I don't think it works like that. And they're like, they just do their big puppy dog eyes, and he's like, fine, all right, we'll have a go. We'll have a try. See if we can make a radiant out of you. And I was, just because we know the Bridgemen much better now, I was kind of studying each person's reaction. And I thought it was quite telling that Sigzil is the one who's very much looking to study this thing and quantify it and do like testing on this whole radiant thing. He's a character we don't learn a lot about until later in the series, but like the little bits of groundwork are there to show that, even about a minor character. So that was neat. Little, I know it doesn't compare to the moon, but it's my little contribution. Yeah, it's a little something. I mean, this whole conversation is very satisfying, because Kaladin and Dalinar seem to reach like a proper understanding. Like we saw it when you were
still being kind of prickly though.
Oh, a little bit. But Dalinar's like, all right, I kind of like your prickliness. Dalinar's kind of like endeared by it a little.
I think he also gets it.
Yeah.
Like I don't think he plans to have Kaladin's full trust and admiration now, right? Because let's remember, Kaladin saved him.
Yeah.
In some ways, Dalinar also saved Kaladin in Bridge 4, though. So, I mean, I think that he understands it's a work in progress.
Yeah. But, like, that's just, like, so much respect for Dalinar in these moments, man. I'm just like, this guy's a legend, because it's pretty insane. The question I had was when Dalinar says this. He goes, "Your men," Dalinar said, "they think very highly of you, and that makes me think very highly of you. I need men like you, like all of you." He narrowed his eyes, looking thoughtful. "The whole kingdom needs you. Perhaps all of Roshar. The true desolation comes." And Kaladin's like, what are you talking about, bro? My question is this like Dalinar just going off into like his weird, weird like new state? Or is he cluing into Cal's radiant situation?
I don't know. I it's like the true desolation comes in. Cal's like, "What was that last part?" And he's like, "Not." I thought it was kind of funny, actually.
It was funny, but he's like, why is he saying that to Kaladin? Like, all of Roshar might need you. The true desolation. Like, is it because he did see him glowing? Like, is he connecting the dots already?
I think so, but in the vision that we'll see in the top room, chapter 75, it seems like he has no plans of radiance or any of this stuff. So maybe Dalinar just isn't sure yet, but he knows. I mean, clearly Kaladin's significant.
Yeah, because I don't know. Like, I don't know that he would say that just to like any old soldier. Mm-hmm. Like going on about the true desolation.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think he thinks Kaladin is vital to be next to him in these times.
Yeah, there must be a bit of an energy, I mean, the whole thing is pretty freaking biblical, like the whole Bridgefall story. It just feels, and maybe Dalinar's kind of like, yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
But look, I love this scene with the stew. Look, it's the last Kaladin scene for the whole book. So that's what I kept reminding myself of. Like, how did Sanderson want to end his chapter, his arc for the first novel and his novel, ultimately, and just like him finding some peace of being like, look, I couldn't save everyone, but I did this, and for now that's okay. Like, it's not much, but it's so much at the same time, because you've been through all this with Kaladin, and you're like, oh, I feel like I can just breathe. And we've like, because so many times in the book, he's like, had successes and then thought, yeah, but I didn't do this, and this. And then he falls into a hole. But for once, he's just like, you know what? Tonight I'm going to enjoy it. And we'll go from there.
Yeah. And I think it's also kind of hinted at that, like, for now he's content, meaning that we should probably expect him to struggle again in the future. So,
but it's a nice place to leave it. So you're not kicked in the gut,
Yeah.
I think that's the main points of this chapter. And then straight after Callie, we get our last Shallan chapter.
Yeah, old Shally over here, chapter 74, Ghostblood. We've heard that. And also the chapter heading, interestingly enough, looks like a sun that's being blocked out by something.
That's Shadesmar, mate. That's Shadesmar. The sun approaches the horizon, boy.
I think it's very interesting.
Is that Dalinar in that chapter? Is he
a moon?
Is he just going to be a big circle?
It's just going to be Dalinar's face in the sky.
just kicking Elokar's grave.
All right. The plot summary for chapter 74 is Shallan finishes reading Yasna's notes concerning the Voidbringers and comes to the same conclusion as Yasna, that the Parshmen are the Voidbringers. They discuss the frightening ramifications of this conclusions, and they make plans to travel to the Shattered Plains to continue investigating King Gavilar's death and the Parshnity transformation into warriors. They also discuss the Ghostbloods, a secret organization seeking answers about the Voidbringers. Yasna names Kabsol a member of the Ghostbloods, and after seeing the secret symbol, Shallan realizes that her father was also likely a member. Dun dun dun. I mean, this is laying out one of the biggest, is still the biggest mystery in Stormlight, and one that we're going to have a lot more information on going into Stormlight 5.
Yeah, man. Shallan finally caught up to where we were on our first episode. Good work, but that's okay. Look, having read a lot more Cosmere, I'm like 1 or 2 books away from finishing the whole thing. The Ghostbloods are just hitting different at this point. And they're just like a whole Cosmere-wide problem / sort of conundrum, secret society, whatever you want to call it. Which makes this whole thing much more exciting, because as soon as you hear Ghostblood now, you're like, okay, so this is like a planetary situation. Mm-hmm. And then you read back to Stormlight, so you're like, so years ago, Shallan's dad was like somehow getting contacted by people from another planet. All right, why is that? And then it all ties back, guys. We all know where this is going. Her mum's a herald, so yeah, it just makes me think, how much did Sanderson plan before?
This is 10 years. This is 14 years ago now.
Oh my God. 2010 wasn't 10 years ago.
Yeah, I know, right? It's crazy. I'm still convinced 10 years ago was 1990. This is a huge chapter because of that. And the fact that it was 14 years ago is extremely impressive, and gives us some questions of wondering. One of the things is that Parshman attacked her father. And that's not... This? I think it was in this chapter. Hopefully I didn't misread it. I may have. Maybe I'm getting it mixed up.
Well, like she was kind of just like, they're having this realization like, oh, the Parshmen are everywhere. They're so docile. But what if they, gain sentience and, finally give us what we've been, what we deserve. But was there a bit about them attacking her father? That was it.
I thought there was, but maybe I'm misremembering it. There's a really good chance that I am.
Okay.
I did think that it was interesting, saying, oh, they work with our food, they take care of our kids and all that stuff. It's like, yeah, in this moment, that it probably is pretty frightening, isn't it?
Yeah, Shallan freaks out. She's like, do we need any more evidence? Can we just can we start? Can we start taking names? And Yasna's like, slow down. Slow down, you highborn. We've got work to do. But look, this is very much, it felt like Shallan's story kind of hit the peak last week with a few chapters with Yasna, and this is kind of just like the epilogue, so to speak. Just it's kind of like the cliffhanger to leave you wanting more for Words of Radiance is what this feels like. It's like, whoa, we've learned so much more about the enemy, the so-called enemy. We're heading off to the rest of the cast in the next book. We're going to the Shattered Plains, and we're gonna also peek into Shallan's past next book, because you're just left with 10,000 questions after her.
Yeah, which is why I'm super excited to reread Words of Radiance, because we know that there's tons of goodies in there and little clues that we're going to have to sift through. By the way, correction, they were talking about how the Parshendi attacked Yasna's father.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
I had it backwards in my head. So I apologize. So here's my question, though. Do we think that the Voidbringers actually are the Parshmen here?
Well, the Voidbringers in the way they're talking about it, it's the fused. Like the fused come back. Yeah. They use Parshendi bodies or whatever to fuel them. So because we get that whole thing in Oathbringer, like, oh, the humans are the Voidbringers. It's not really. Like the Voidbringers are the fused. They were just kind of like using that term to label humans migrating. So, I mean, look, Yasna's onto it. And then she was kind of like, what I started to think of is, again, why are the Ghostbloods trying to kill Yasna? That's my question.
It's a good question.
Like, why? Like, I don't understand how she's really, at least at this initial moment, how is she really causing them a problem? If anything, they'd want to recruit her. But maybe once that has proved useless, they're like, well, may as well kill her. It just feels a bit like something's missing there for me.
Yeah, I'm sure there is context, or maybe we're misremembering something, or we aren't remembering something. Hopefully we get some more of these answers in the 5th book, but that might even be further down the road.
Yeah, the Ghostbloods feel like a very long game.
Do you think Yasna will be the first queen? Like ruling queen?
Well, she is. She is currently.
Right, but Elokar is king. Like the figurehead is Elokar.
Yeah, but by rhythm of war, Yasna's queen.
Is she? I totally forgot this.
Yeah. Once he kicks the bucket, she's queen. Yeah.
Yeah, for some reason I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Shows you how much I remember from Rhythm of War. Oh, that's good. I'm glad I was onto something there.
Yeah, you picked up on the foreshadowing.
Yeah.
He's cracked the case.
Do we have anything else for chapter 74?
Not
it's
really.
Pretty short.
It's pretty quick.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like stuff we've been talking about for like 40 to 50 hours.
Yeah.
We've kind of covered it. Yeah.
Well, we'll get to the meatiest chapter possibly here, and that is chapter 75 in the top room from Dalinar's POV. During the next high storm after Sadeas' betrayal, in one of Dalinar's visions, he finds himself in a white, rocky landscape with smoky figures rising around him. The voice again tells Dalinar to unite them. Dalinar then demands to know why the voice lied to him with regards to trusting Sadeas. But instead of answering, the voice appears in human form and continues exhorting Dalinar to prepare for the Everstorm, showing him a wall of darkness approaching a ruined Kholinar. Dalinar continues to ask questions and demand answers, but soon realizes that the voice cannot hear him and never could. The voice continues telling Dalinar that this vision is a glimpse into the future born of his fears. Dalinar then sees that the wall of darkness is a wall of dust, and as it passes by, the ground falls away, leaving the land and where Kholinar was an empty void. Only the space where Dalinar stands remains. The voice tells Dalinar that someone must lead, unite, and protect the people. He then commands Dalinar to rebuild the Knights Radiant, explaining that unity will be the key in facing the true desolation. The voice then ends by proclaiming that he was God, the Almighty, and that he is now dead after being killed by Odium.
Insane. I feel like this is the moment where it becomes epic fantasy. This series.
Yeah, because now we're talking about gods and world destroying events, and it's just funny thinking about Taravangian, who's been killing other rulers around Roshar, and then you have Odium, who is killing gods who are his peers, and it's no surprise when you look at this, you're like, oh yeah, makes sense that Taravangian's next step would be to become an Odium.
Yeah, who knew that little old man was gonna level up so much. Man, there's so much to talk about in this chapter. This is one of my favorite chapters because, well, I mean, so many reasons, but the big reason is the Night of Sorrows, dude. And so I made, like, years ago, I made a series trying to find the end of the Stormlight Archive, and I was looking at death rattles and visions and all these things, and a big part of it, watch the series, you'll see what I'm talking about, but a big part of it, I land on this vision because of the dust and this dust storm ruining Roshar, which is like unlike anything we've seen in the entire series. And I think it's a completely separate event known as the Night of Sorrows, because we get this whole image, we get all these things like the sun is approaching the horizon, the Night of Sorrows is coming, and we get all these images of dusts and rocks exploding and stuff. So I think this is what we're heading towards in the next book. Like, whatever this event is that, like, Honor is freaking out about, we've yet to see. A lot of people, I mean, you go on the Coppermine, they say the true desolation, and we've got all this info about it like it's already happened. I mean, that's what we're labeling it for now, but I feel like the proper true desolation that we will come to know in time is yet to come, and this is a glimpse at it. There's a lot of, like, sus lines for me, dude, and I think you'll like them because it's all about rocks. Did you pick up on these?
I did notice a lot of rock talk.
There's a lot.
And in the previous chapter, Yasna also refers to the Voidbringers having rock beast, like, which I think we see in Oathbringer.
Yeah, and we see it in the prelude. Those I always forget their freaking names. But
me and you always do. I can't remember. It doesn't. Whatever.
Yeah. Look at the Oathbringer cover.
Isn't it Thunderclass or something like that? Yeah,
that's the one.
I mean, I'm with you. Before you go on, I just want to say I'm with you. If what we have seen is just the true desolation, I feel like I'd be a little bit disappointed. I think that this is one of those things where we don't have enough context to understand what he's saying yet. And I've also said that possibly, that unite them is all of them, Parshendi and humans alike, because the true desolation comes from Offworld.
Ooh.
Thought that would be kind of neat. But who knows? I mean, I might be way off on that.
I mean, we're definitely in a desolation because, like, the fused have come back, and it's like, it's kind of like a regular old desolation as described.
Yes.
But the true desolation, I don't know.
Yeah, it feels like there needs to be another epic event to take that name. So what are the sus lines here?
All right. The sus lines. Okay, so firstly, this is the description that I just labeled the Night of Sorrows. It says, no, that wall in the air wasn't a high storm. It wasn't rain making that enormous shadow, but blowing dust. He remembered this vision in full now. It had ended here with him confused, staring out at that oncoming wall of dust. This time, however, the vision continued. Two things that are significant. One, like with dust is like never mentioned to deal with storms and never shown again. So yeah, yet to see. Ona's worried about it. Two, what makes it really significant is Dalinar saying this was the first vision he ever got was of this, which is significant too. Not the first vision that we see in the book. We didn't get this version. It was it's not even mentioned in this book. And then, okay, these are the sus lines. Okay. When he's seeing it all get destroyed. A massive earthquake accompanied by a terrible roar of dying rocks. Would you describe rocks dying in a roar? I thought that was a little sus. And then he says the sounds of the land itself seeming to die. Because he describes like seemingly inanimate objects as living things.
Yeah.
Specifically rocks. A terrible roar of dying rocks. I don't know. Just like when it comes to sounds and tones and stuff and rocks, maybe I'm reaching, but I was a bit like, what are you thinking? I don't know if I've got you here.
You got me. No, you got me here. I agree. The roar of rocks dying just that wouldn't work for me as just a clever descriptor, honestly, because like that doesn't ring true in my head. Like
dying rocks,
just it doesn't do much for me. And I'm a big fan of like if you're going to have like imagery or anything, metaphor, anything, it needs to be true, right? When the reader thinks about it. So to me, this is a breadcrumb, but I'm also conspiratorial when it comes to Stormlight Archive because it's more fun. So I can't say that I'm not completely biased.
It's a big maybe, but I feel like if you're going to describe rocks breaking, they're like crumbling or disintegrating, but like a roar of dying rocks just felt a little little different.
And we've been on the rocks for a while now, so it's not like we just came up with this. I mean, we've been building evidence for our case of rocks.
Oh, dude, there was so much last week that you missed. Like when Seth's hearing the screams in his head, he's like, he thinks it's coming from the rocks. Oh my god! I was losing my mind. I was losing my freaking mind. He's like, oh, it's coming from beneath the beds and on the walls, like where the stones are.
Dude, we're in the money. We know it.
We are. But like literally before that description of the dust, I'm forgetting his name. What's Honor's actual name? Tanavast is saying to him, this is what could happen. This is what I fear will happen. It's what he wants, the true desolation. So just to throw it in one more time, because this is still when Dalinar is like not clued into that freaking Tanavast can't hear him. But it says, unite them, the sun approaches the horizon. The Everstorm comes, the true desolation, the night of sorrows. Dude, does this, now that I read that out loud, does that sound like a sequential thing? Like the sun approaches the horizon, that's happening now in Shadesmar. The Everstorm comes, that happens in the next book. The true desolation, sometime after that. And then the night of sorrows. So like
the night of sorrows will be the outcome, in my opinion, of the Battle of Champions.
Right. Okay.
But some people don't believe this. I've been starting to see a little bit more counter to this. People saying that Sanderson will not leave off for so many years on a down note, that it will not be a sad cliffhanger. But who knows?
Well, I think it would just be like a changed Roshar. Because what happens with theories is everyone loves them, and then they become pervasive in a fandom, and then everyone hates them. Like the child champion theory, everyone loved it, and now they're like, how could you be so ridiculous to even assume anything? You know, people get mad. But I'm telling you right now, there's no way that the next book ends with like, and then Roshar was green with moving plants, and Kaladin married, I don't know, whoever, Adolin, and then it all worked out. You know, like there's no way this is how it ends. Yeah. It's got to be devastating. It's got to be devastating. So look, that's my case. Case closed. I've got nothing more to say.
Case closed. I mean, it's also pretty crazy. We see the Almighty in human form, and leads into the conversations of, are these visions being recorded? Like, is it like a playback? There's a ton of stuff here.
Wait, new question. Sorry, okay. I've realized there was more pages to this chapter. Okay, yeah. So first, I do have this question of like, okay, Tanavast, the guy who held the Shard of Honor for like the entire time up till now. Firstly, how did he leave these visions? Why did Dalinar get them? And also, why did Dalinar get it right now? Why is this happening now? There's no storm. There's no storm at all. So why is he here? What's going on? And just like the beginning of it is a very odd description, like compared to the other visions, like this dusty landscape.
The reason why it's happening now is because of what's happening in the epilogue.
Okay, yeah. Okay, let's tie it together with that.
Yeah, I think that's why. I think because we see a herald walk out and Taln is like, I broke. That's my guess.
Okay. Well, let's read this description, right? Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. There is a high storm. There is a high storm.
Oh, is there?
It literally says, as the high storm hit in force, Dalinar, I felt the vision coming on. Whoops. Sorry.
Hey, if you don't have interesting material, you just make it up. You just gotta make it up.
So it says, he turned about wary. The sky was dark, and he stood on a field of dull, bone-white rock, jagged and rough, extending in all directions, off into eternity. Amorphous shapes made of curling grey smoke rose from the ground like smoke rings, only in other shapes. Here a chair, there a rock bud with vines extended, curling to the sides and vanishing. Beside him appeared a figure of a man in uniform, silent and vaporous, rising lethargically towards the sky, mouth open. The shapes melted and distorted as they climbed higher, though they seemed to hold their forms longer than they should. It was unnerving standing on the eternal plane, pure darkness above, smoke figures rising all around. It wasn't like any vision he'd seen before. And then he realizes he has seen it before. This feels like a place he's in, not a vision. This feels like Shadesmar-esque. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it really does.
Like for me, right? This feels like things going into the afterlife that are dying, like a rock bud, a chair that was broken, because everything has a soul in the Cosmere or whatever. And then we have like a man in uniform who goes up to. It just feels like he's watching. Is this like a spiritual realm thing going on? It just feels like we're in a new place.
Yes, I would agree with that.
Yeah. I don't know. It just feels like it's so odd that it starts there. And then he says, you must unite them. I just feel like you could really, really, really go into that. But what I wanted to talk about before we go to the epilogue is the stars he sees in the sky at the end of the chapter.
A lot of cosmology coming out here.
Yeah. Yeah. So it says, I wish I could do more, repeated the figure in gold, which is Tanavast. You might be able to get him to choose a champion. He is bound by some rules. All of us are. A champion could work well for you, but it is not certain. And without the Dawn Shards, well, I've done what I can. It is terrible. A terrible thing to leave you alone. That's not the part that I was meant to read, but still, I totally read the wrong quote. Sorry. That's foreshadowing the champions. Sorry, my bad. Where is it here? I thought I was nailing this. I'm like, that's not the right quote.
Well, I also will just put in that I completely forgot that the champion fight was actually talked about right here. And I was thinking that was only an Oathbringer thing. Turns out, nope, it's right there at the end of book 1.
Yeah, he's like the champion rule. You should try that in a few books' time. I totally forgot that. Oh, where is it? There's a part where they look up and he's seeing stars going out. Oh, here we go. This isn't just about you either, the figure said, raising his hand into the air. A light winked out in the sky, one that Dalinar hadn't realized was there. Then another winked out as well. The sun seemed to be growing dimmer. It's about all of them, the figure said. I should have realized he'd come for me. So, few things here.
So when I said off-world threat, I was dead on, is what you're saying?
For me, right, the lights winking out in the sky feel like Shards who have died to odium in the past. That's what that felt like to me. Because he said, because Tanavas goes, it's about all of them. I should have realized he'd come for me.
I think it's planets dying.
You think it's planets? Don't you feel like it's Shards? Because he's going to come for me now. It's about all of them, all of us 16. That's what I
Right. Well, yeah, you know what? Then that probably makes more sense. I was just thinking that like sun dies out, planets can't survive, life can't survive, winking out. But no, you're on. You're right.
But what you say does raise my curiosity because like I can't connect it to the sun getting dimmer with like if my theory is like these are representations of shards going out or planets. Let's say they're planets going out. We both probably agree that this is odium's work, right? But why is the sun growing dimmer? That's my question. I don't know why.
Night of Sorrows. There's no sun in the night, bro. I don't know.
Like, is it dimmer because it's approaching the horizon, or is it like just dimmer because
the power's being zapped from it?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, there's a lot of. I feel like something very literal is happening here that Sanderson fully understands, but we just can't get it yet. But this feels like, this is definitely like something we'll look back on and be like, oh my goodness, that's what's
happening. I would agree with that.
Yeah. So, look, we see all this. We hear about the contest of champions and the way of kings somehow that neither of us remembered. And then he just does the mic drop like, I'm God.
I thought that this part was a little abrupt, to be honest with you. I'm God and odium killed me. And I was just like, I kind of chuckled. I was like, man, what a ridiculous line.
Dude, I kind of love it. Like, I love the hopeless feeling it leaves. He's like, look, I've tried. I'm God. I'm dead. My bad. Good luck.
Peace.
Peace out. Peace out, man. Good luck. Oh, I want these chapters of like, Tanavas with his VR headset on, like using Unreal Engine 5 to make his visions and just getting it ready. I don't know. Just I want to see how this was done. I also definitely don't want to see how this was done, just to keep it mysterious. But yeah, man, like what an absolute gut punch to leave like the book on. That's crazy.
Yeah, mystery, a bit of a high note for Kaladin, and then the gut punch here, and then you get a sense that things are about to happen from the epilogue, which is of most worth from a Wit POV. Yep. Wit has a conversation with some guardsmen in Kholinar. He asks them, what is the talent that men value most? One of the guardsmen suggests art, to which Wit replies in the negative. At this point, Taln stumbles into the main courtyard bearing a prophecy about the Everstorm. Before collapsing on the ground, his honor blade beside him. Hoid finishes by saying it is timelessness that men value most, and Taln has arrived too late. Also, good to know his honor blade did not disappear when it hit the ground.
There's a lot of the curiosities in this chapter, man. My goodness. Have you seen the famous art piece of Taln arriving? It's my favorite.
Yes, I have. It's epic.
Yeah, he's just like busting the gate open. Oh. Mm-hmm. Did you, like, before I absolutely go off, did you have, like, questions? Or
No. I just remember that me and you have talked about how Taln, maybe he didn't break. He thought he broke, but something else caused the desolation at this very moment. And I can't remember exactly what that was. So I'm sure it's going to be a part of your crackpot theory time.
Yeah.
So let's hear it.
All right. Let me just put my chef's hat on real quick so I can
let him cook.
All right. So look, weirdly enough, Sanderson has dropped a huge thing in just like a fan question, which is unlike him. He tends to give you a little bit like clues here and there, but he straight up said Talon didn't break. So like whatever's happening here, confirmed from the man himself, right? Not in the books, but he said it, which is kind of crazy to me that he would say something that big. But look, it's confirmed he didn't break. So why the hell is he here? That's my question. Why is he here? How did he get here? And even more weirdly, how does Wit know he's going to be here at this exact moment?
It's almost like someone has set these things in motion.
Yes. And how the hell does Hoid know? How is he there with his little box instrument being like, I'm just going to make a sick philosophical discussion right in time for bam, there he is.
Well, not only that, you can kind of actually figure out that because he said he's arrived too late.
Yeah.
Meaning that all this stuff is already underway and Taln thinks Taln is he's way too late. Yeah. Something else triggered. Yeah, actually, now that I read it that way, it's pretty obvious.
Yeah, obviously. Jeez.
Come on. Yeah, he arrived too late.
Yeah. So
because he should be the first person bringing the news of this.
Yeah,
but he's not because it's already been in motion.
Yeah. And how does
so who sent Taln here?
Yeah, straight up. Where does he come from? And we get some clues. He's got like leaves in his beard for some reason. He is also like it says his muscles glistened, wet as if he just swum a great distance. Oh. There's no storm currently. So why is he wet? Where?
The old lake up north.
What are you on about? Pure Lake?
Yeah, Pure Lake.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
But like,
Pure Lake. That's where he was.
Yeah, but okay, because my immediate thought was that he was like flying through the clouds or something because he's a freaking herald. But it seems like he's not strong enough to do that. He's extremely weak. He can barely lift his honor blade, which are described as being light as air. So why is it weigh so heavy on him? And just like, where the hell has he come from? He hasn't come from Braze because Braze is like where they're tortured. It's meant to be like fire hellscape the whole time. Unless they're waterboarding him, they're trying a new technique. I don't know. It just feels weird. It just feels really odd. So like through reading the rest of the books, we understand like that the Everstorm and everything, basically like the listeners or whatever, the Fuse, whatever, kind of worked around the Oath Pact and the whole way it all works. They kind of kickstarted the Desolations early. So we know that like this started without any of the heralds breaking, which makes more sense now that Sanderson would just be like, yeah, you're right. Which just leads me to the question of like, where's he come from? We're back there again.
Where does he come from? What did start the desolation? How can the desolation start if he hadn't broken? Like, where's that rule written? Who decides that? Is that why this is a true desolation? Why is that why this is different than any of the other times prior? Like, there's a lot here.
Yeah, it's interesting. Wit says like the storm has come right as he arrives. So his muscles glistened. He's drenched as if he's swum a great distance. To his side, he carried a massive shard blade, which is his honor blade, point down, sticking about a finger's width into the stone. His hand on the hilt, the blade reflected torchlight. It was long, narrow, and straight, shaped like an enormous spike. Welcome, lost one, Wit whispered. That's a very just like it's great seeing Wit like slow the hell down and have like real reverence and respect for Taln. Who I think is just going to be the ultimate Stormlight character whenever we get to him. Interesting detail is if you look at the description of his blade here to the blade that he has in Words of Radiance, it's different. So between here and Words of Radiance, he's lost his honor blade somehow. Someone's taken it.
Oh my god.
He has a shard blade, which they take from him. Yeah. It's a nice little detail. So that's another...
Do you think Wit took it?
Can you imagine? They bring Talon into the gates and he's like, let me take that real quick.
He might.
I mean, he's the prime suspect number one because he's the only guy we've seen between then and
that's right
now. Which would be very cool if Witch just like pocketed it on a blade. Do you have any theories of where he's come from here?
It's a Pure Lake. I already told you.
Okay, yeah, you did say that.
I don't know why or how or what it really means, but Pure Lake. I'm going Pure Lake.
I mean, okay, so look, he was there being tortured, presumably, for 4,500 years. And he has left there somehow. I'm assuming through Shadesmar, but you can't. There's no water in Shadesmar as far as I understand. It's just beads and, whatever. So you can't get wet there. It's not a high storm. I guess all that's left is the Pure Lake. Round of applause for Jimmy. The man.
Yeah, I cracked the code 10 minutes ago, bro. I don't know why we're struggling with this. I told you. I have the answer. I got the coda. All right. I am the cipher. The cipher of the Stormlight Archive? Me.
It's done. It's done. Give us your theories, guys. Why? Why is he?
Why so people are going to be like, no, it's just what it says on the page. You guys are overthinking.
No, there's a clear... Wait, I want to read about, like, his hair was long and matted, his clothing, nothing more than a ragged sack-like length of cloth wrapped around his waist. He stood with head bowed, wet, ratty hair hanging down over his face, mixing with a beard that had bits of wood and leaves stuck in it. As far as I know, if you talk to me, Roshar's a pretty desolate place. To have, like, wooden sticks throughout your hair is a little bit weird, in my opinion.
Shinovar?
Yeah, that's where my mind went.
Ooh. He also does stab through a stone.
Yeah, as you do. Yeah. I think these little bits of description are very important. Like, this is what I'm great at with Stormlight. I'm great at being like, hey, here's the info. Someone else please figure this out because it's too hard. But that's definitely what we should be looking at here. His description here, why it's so hard for him to hold his honor blade, like that shouldn't be the case. That could be just a herald madness thing or a herald weakness thing after being tortured for 4,500 years. That could happen.
That would make sense.
Yeah, but how did he leave? How did he get here? Why has he got, like, Middle Earth-esque appearance with, like, leaves and twigs in his beard in, like, the rock planet? Just feels a bit weird. So, yeah. The end of book 1 of the
end of book 1, but we do have an end note. Do you want to go over the end note?
I didn't read the end note.
Above silence, the illuminating storms. Dying storms illuminate the silence above. The end note is about the thoughts from Roshar, head of His Majesty's Silent Gatherers, on a Katek told by a dying Herdazian who barely spoke the Alethi language and unlikely had the education that he had heard such a Katek before. They decided to leave this death quote to Taravangian to solve the puzzle that it tells. Above silence, the illuminating storms, dying storms, illuminate the silence above.
Which are the part titles. The part titles of the whole book. This Katek. So we finally realized where this came from. We've actually been talking about it a couple of times.
And this book is supposedly a translation talking about the events that happen on Roshar, right? Like this is a framed narrative, technically, I think. So, who's talking to us? Who wrote this book? Taravangian? Is that why?
I think, yeah. That I don't know how far that goes. Like, if someone from Roshar has written that, I think there's elements of that, but I don't think they're writing like Kaladin's POV sort of thing.
Okay.
So I'm just gonna because I've just pulled up the end note now. I was so stupid and just saw the end of the book 1. Oh, great, I'm done. Didn't even turn the page. Okay. The fact that this was uttered by an illiterate dying Herdazian in a language he barely spoke should be of particular note. There is no record of this particular Katek in any repository of Vorin poetry, so it is very unlikely that the subject was merely repeating something he once heard. None of the ardents we showed it to had any knowledge of it, though 3 did praise its structure and asked to meet the poet. We leave it to His Majesty's mind on a strong day to puzzle out the meaning of why the storms might be important and what the poem may mean by indicating that there is a silence both above and below said storms.
Very, very strange.
Above and below silence.
Yeah, it's a bit of a trip to kind of puzzle this one out.
It's very vague. I just love Kateks in general. I think it's a very cool poem structure.
I agree.
But I also have the same question as Roshar, head of His Majesty's Silent Gatherers. I do have the same question. Why is there a silence above and below the storm? I don't know.
We may never know.
We may never know. Because I think we have a bit of like this, I don't know if you call it recency bias, but we're like stuck in our time trying to relate everything to book 5. And maybe some things are just book like way.
Well, I do think there's going to be stuff in this book that tie into the back half of the series.
There's got to be, right?
Yes.
And again, like I keep thinking this is book 1 of 10. Everything is a little bit more significant. So that being the Katek is interesting. I should look into what the Kateks are for each book, because all the parts are Kateks split into little.
That would be a very good idea, I think.
I think one is Navani, one is like Parshendi and Rhythm of War. I don't really remember all of them, but they're all like an in-world thingy, which is cool. But yeah, dude, we did it.
We have done it, and it was a good time. And I think whenever you take time to read a book this way, it actually ends up paying off, especially if you care about like the bigger questions of the series.
Yeah, I think despite a few people wishing we did it slightly differently, I think we'll forever keep this pace of 1 to 2 chapters. It's been really rewarding. And even in the slower parts, it's led to great discussions, funny jokes, and good times.
And I also don't have any more time. So it's as much as I can do.
Yeah.
But fantastic time. We're going to really sit and talk about it and think about not only just how we read it, but also what we got out of it and some of the bigger questions. And then we're going to have our awards next episode. So please make sure to fill out that form below.
Yeah, I think I will suit up for the final episode. I think suit and tie.
Oh my God.
I think maybe a $sign necklace as Brandon wears for his special occasions, just to pay homage.
All right.
And
I can get behind that.
Yeah, we'll suit up. We'll and we'll tell you what's what next week. But as always, guys, thank you for accompanying us on this episode of Lost in Roshar. Remember, the most important chapter a man can read is nothing. Just take the week off, guys. Fill in the survey. We'll see you next time as we dive into the awards for the Way of Kings and look back on our Way of Kings journey.
And if you enjoyed this episode of the podcast, be sure to leave us a review on whichever platform you listen on. If you have any questions or theories, spam read us at lostandroshar@gmail.com. We'll see you next time on Lost and Roshar, and remember to keep that safe hand covered.